How do we measure good CX?
Initially, it used to be CSAT, customer satisfaction, which is transactional. Then came NPS. NPS was two parts. One was transactional NPS, when I had an issue or when I communicated with any asset. And I'm calling it asset because sometimes website is an asset, sometimes IVR is an asset, sometimes the person who I speak to is an asset of the company. What happens there? How did that interaction go? That is transactional. But they also do something called relational. Over a period of a year, right? You've not talked to me at all, but I want to know. CSAT was very intangible. You were not able to relate CSAT to revenue. Then came the third dimension of saying, okay, forget the promoter aspect of it. Your customer effort score. The more your customer has to put in an effort to get anything done, you lost.
What is your advice to people who are entering into the customer experience?
Before customer experience, learn the business. Understand the technology to give the digital side of it. But we are all human beings. Empathy is a absolute need.
What was that point when you thought of what you want to become?
It kept changing, right? At some point, I wanted to be a priest. The sports thing made me very competitive. Whatever be it, I'm very competitive. I have to give it my all in. From a very young age, or when I say I've finished college, I had 5 funders. In a B school, you always say A, B, C, right? So I had 5 Fs. For your life to be in order, you need to manage your family. You have to give adequate time for your family. 2, I always taught faith, right? You need to, in my case, I had to spend enough time from a spiritual perspective. Third one was files. In my case is office, right? You had to ensure that part of it is working for you and you give adequate time there. The fourth part is fitness, how you give yourself, time for your body and to be in shape. And finally, don't fail to have fun. My 5 Fs were family, faith, fitness, files, and, fun.
What do you believe the world needs more from the leaders today?
Kindness, empathy.
That question always keeps haunting me. AI versus empathy. AI or empathy. AI with empathy. We're getting into the rapid fire. AI optimization or AI caution?
AI optimization.
The future of customer experience will be, this is fill in the blanks.
Will be personalized and intuitive.
Young professionals today must learn ABC faster.
Business, networking, and communication.
Fantastic. Welcome to In the Line of Fire with Saraj, another CXO CEO series. And today we have John. John, welcome to In the Line of Fire with Saraj.
Thank you, Saraj. Thank you for inviting me.
This series is about real experience, real talks, and real insights from the CEOs and CXOs and the thought leaders from around the world. This is about tapping into the gold mine of knowledge and lived experiences of our senior executives and bringing it out to share with the emerging leaders and the freshers and young talent and everybody else.
I'm glad you're doing this. I hope it will be very helpful and useful for some of the younger generation who anyway has a lot to deal with in today's world as they try to get into their career.
Yes. So In the Line of Fire with Saraj, CEO CXO series is based on 5-dimensional leadership framework: leading self, leading family, leading teams, leading business, and then leading organizations. The second important aspect is the context is changing. The life is not what it was 20 years back. Those who will align, those who will adapt, and those who will understand the context will thrive much better than those who will not. And that is how this entire discussion is positioned. So, John, welcome to In the Line of Fire with Saraj once again. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Saraj. Glad to be here. As you know, I'm John Praveen. I presently work with Foundever, which is the third largest, BPO across the globe, about 150,000 people. I work as a vice president for solutions here. I've been here for the last 6 odd years. In different capacities. Overall, I've been in the industry for a little north of 25, 26 years. I started in 99, so that's 27 years. I have spent time with organizations like Sutherland, Dartech, I did a brief stint as a chief sales officer with a IT organization called Kanini, and have spent time at Wipro or Move. So mostly the contact centers in the region. Pretty happy to be here, wanting to share what I've learned and picked up in the customer experience space. And within this space, I've done different roles. While I'm right now in solutioning and a bit of consulting kind of engagement, I've also done P&L leadership for different practices like enterprise support, digital things, and managed IT services. Prior to that, StarTech, I was a global solutions head. Before that, in Sutherland, as a solutions head for the tech vertical. Before that, joined primarily to run solutioning for analytics. Over a period of time, also ran the practice. In running analytics, digital, and when I say digital, both automation as well as conversational AI, all in the space of customer experience. Right. So the advantage I had is because I started as a frontline agent somewhere in 99, when I didn't even know what did call centers mean. Fresh out of college, trying to appear for my cat, and in the meanwhile, trying to ensure like no, there was no gap in my resume, trying to pick up a job and found this place, right? At this point, I realized, yes, I want to be in this industry. It is something that is coming new in India, and I want to get back in this industry. I got back, but this time in the sales organization and demand generation. At that point, Wipro was acquiring SpectrumMind. So it was a good opportunity for me to bring all of SpectrumMind capabilities to the larger Wipro. Later on, took transition management. So I was trained on, different transition toolkits. Did account management there. Before I joined 24/7 AI, 247 AI, which was a game changer for me. And we will talk about that, why it's a game changer, which is where I started thinking about this very, very differently, which is where the analytics bug bit me, right? Which is where I understood the clients are not buying 100 bodies from me, right? All they needed was someone who answered that contact or that call or that chat, right? They are buying somebody who will respond to their end customers on that call and make that call a great experience for their end customer. That's a product,
That is the catchword, the
right?
experience. And that's where we'll
The
talk
customer experience,
more.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the customer experience.
So that is the product that we were selling in contact centers. It took me some time to understand because initially the whole play was, hey, did you have 100 bodies or like 150 agents, 500 agents, 1,000 agents, right? That was what was AHT, right? That was primarily the topics. There was SLA. Did you answer these calls in so many seconds? Did you respond to these emails in so many hours? Did you respond to these chats?
I think
Picking
India
up.
started experiencing the seconds and milliseconds and call loggers and all of that. That was a transition period for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the latency was high in India,
Yeah.
when you're talking to the international thing. But um, the market picked up somewhere in 2005 was also the period where India was losing, its BPO potential because attrition was sky
And
high.
the remote infrastructure was on the rise. And that's when I joined CSC, Computer Sciences Corporation, now DXC,
Right.
as the head of capability to support, offshoring
Fan.
2003.
So, yeah, it looks like we probably have been in different practices or practices around the same cycle. One hype cycle on. I mean, I would say the contact center as such was reducing, but Manila was gathering steam around 2005, 2006. Somewhere around 2012, 2013, it was LATAM that started picking
Yeah,
up. All right.
true.
So different regions start becoming the flavor of the darling of the contact center outsourcing or the customer experience work based on cost, based on, the language, talent availability, all of that.
We'll talk more about customer experience and transitions. And I think you have phenomenal experience in those areas, John. And so for my audience, this discussion is going to be focused on a lot on customer experience. We'll tap into the gold mine of knowledge and see what John can share from his rich experience. So, John, we'll get back to little bit about the first dimension, which I always call the personal life. Tell us a little bit about your childhood. What kind of child were you?
Yeah, very, middle class, simple childhood, always trying to be out in the play field. right? Trying to play some game or the other. Sometimes it was cricket, sometimes it was football, sometimes it was something else. Badminton, yeah, picked up badminton sometime in fifth or sixth standard. So very active, outdoor games. Didn't like so much to sit at home. Was never the video games thing that, children today play. I was mostly an outdoor kid. I was reasonably good in studies, used to be in the top three in most school classes. Definitely didn't spend a lot of time. Was not a bookworm by.
You spend your school days in.
School was in a school, Sacred Heart School in Chennai. Then my college was in Loyola. I also did a BTech in computing systems through Open University of Vancouver. Then did my master's in business from LIBA. Yeah, spent 5 years, about 5 years in Loyola between my graduation and post-graduation there. Very nice memories of that campus. Yeah, so childhood was great. Childhood, I think, probably set a lot of things in context. And those days it was, hard work was what you were taught.
Did you think of a career during the childhood? What was that point when you thought of what you wanted to become?
It kept changing, right? Like, at some point, like, I wanted to be a priest. At some point, right? I wanted to be a priest. And I thought, like, hey, the priest, because the priest was a principal in my school, right? I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I get to be, like, the leader in charge of all, like, 800,000 students. At some point, it was
You
that.
were always finding out the ways to be the leader.
I liked it, right? Being in, kind of that leadership position. Absolutely liked it.
What is your message to the people to be at the top of CX when it comes to technology, AI enablement? How should companies align to the future when it comes to customer experience?
Yeah. So I think I would take it as level one as reactive companies, right? Who react. Level two are companies, level two, level three, probably, level three are companies who are predicting, right? Do not want that customer to reach out to you, right? Because now they're able to figure out if this customer is going to have this issue 15 minutes before, or, like, a day before. It's possible today, based on all the data points that we have. It is possible to predict, hey, this customer is going to have that issue. And sometimes, if you understand it, the cost of serving a customer reactively is more expensive than, servicing the customer proactively. And to serve that customer proactively, on your database needs to be right. You need to have data. Today, you can get telemetry, you can get logs, you can get interaction details, you can get details of your customers if they are on your website. You get all these data points. It's important what you do with that data points, right? Not just to sell your products, but more for how you make it a great experience for your customers. That for me is a level three, right?
How do we measure good CX?
See, in there are a lot of technologies, a lot of mechanisms or methods. Initially, it used to be CSAT, customer satisfaction, which is transactional. Something happens, and then you say, like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rank your satisfaction? Then came NPS. NPS was two parts. One was transactional NPS, when I had an issue or when I communicated with any asset. And I'm calling it asset because sometimes website is an asset, sometimes IVR is an asset, sometimes the person who I speak to is an asset of the company. What happens there? How did that interaction go? That is transactional. But they also do something called relational. Over a period of a year, right? You've not talked to me at all, but I want to know, the more your customer has to put in an effort to get anything done, you've lost it. Right? How do you make that effort lesser? So customer effort score came into picture a lot. So a lot of organizations try to marry all these concepts. They try to look at how much effort the customer has to put in, as well as will the customer promote us. So these are very tangible metrics for you to understand what your transactional CX looks like. And when you do it in a relational thing like NPS, over the period of the relationship, that gives you a very relationship-based CX of what do customers feel.
Suddenly, the CSAT looks like very small thing when you define these 3, 4 levels.
Yeah.
The customer satisfaction is just at level 1. It doesn't make much difference because they're just voicing out.
Absolutely. I'll take one example. Sorry, if you think of travel, right? What happened pre-travel? You buy the ticket. There are different touch points, right? You buy the ticket. You take information of what is the best price, everything. You buy the ticket. Then you come check in, right? You do a web check-in. This is all pre-flight. Then on flight, how did did you get your food? Was your entertainment fine? Was your seat working fine? Was it, did you have enough leg room? All of that. Then post-flight, did your bag arrive in time? Did you get the points that you loyalty? So all of these touch points, and where in that category in travel, right? I'm just taking travel as an
Yeah,
example.
great
Every
example.
industry has example, and you need to figure out where are certain customers having issues? How do I solve?
So, John, what is your advice to people who are entering into the customer experience? Maybe this could be for an individual at the starting level, entry level, or for emerging leaders, or for the organizations. How should they look at customer experience from the future perspective and prepare themselves?
Before customer experience, learn the business. So if you're providing customer experience for retail, then you need to know there is something called pre-purchase, right? I'm researching, just like travel, I told you, right? Learn the business. That's important. You need to know the domain. And only when you know the domain, you'll be able to provide that customer the right experience. Anyone who's trying to entering any new job, they need to understand the business inside out. Try put in efforts even while you're in college to learn domain. Second thing, start with data literacy. Understand how data works, not algorithms initially. I'm saying understand the data that is needed at different areas, right? The third thing is get comfortable with human beings. End of the day, you're supporting them, right? uh, you will learn the business, you'll get the data, you'll probably understand the technology to give the digital side of it, but we're all human beings. Empathy is a absolute need. What state that person in healthcare, sometimes like that person is trying to revive somebody's health, somebody's life, right? Versus somebody who's lost something, stuck in in travels, I've landed in a new place, my whole bags are not come, right? I'm supposed to go for an interview tomorrow, nothing is available, or I don't know where to go. So empathize, that is
Yeah,
extremely
I think,
important.
and that's a big thing, John, and a great insight for everyone. How do you interject empathy into the entire systems, entire automation, entire digitization, entire AI enablement, and enhancing your technology? How do you interject empathy? Because end of the day, people want to feel it, and I think that's great insight that you've given. So I think we've had great discussions, a lot of hard discussions also, and we'll make things light for you now. We're getting into the rapid fire. So you will not have many options. You can't give long answers in this segment, John. So let's just start make things little light. So AI optimization or AI caution,
AI optimization,
data or intuition.
intuition
The future of customer experience will be, this is fill in the blanks.
will be personalized and intuitive.
Young professionals today must learn ABC faster.
Business, networking, and communication.
Fantastic. Empathy will become more valuable in the AI age. We just discussed that.
Absolutely.
Okay, one line answers. One habit that changed your leadership journey.
Trying to get to the core of what it was, right? Like I said, the understanding we were not selling bodies, we were selling that call, right? And therefore, understanding that call is coming in because something failed in the web. The customer's
Right.
already gone there. So the understanding that customer journey is important.
One thing organizations must urgently rethink.
Their ability to leverage AI for many aspects of their business.
Why do you say that?
Otherwise, they'll get killed, right? Like how Nokia disappeared, like how, different organizations disappeared. It used to be Google search and it is still Google search. But, unless Google went into Gemini, probably ChatGPT would have taken everything off. Google search would have been killed, not immediately, but over a period of time, ChatGPT would have swept everything off,
You're right.
right?
One word your team may describe you.
Hopefully trustworthy.
Great. Any leadership myth?
That networking is not needed.
Great. Where do you think the major shift happening? People are talking all around AI. What's your thought on that?
It is happening. It is happening in scale. I've seen it happening over the last 8-10 years. It is happening much more accelerated fashion right now with the LLMs coming in. But personalization is the name of the game. Going forward, you'll have to design interactions in a way humans feel valued. What that means is the leftover that comes in, humans need to now handle, not like password resets. Okay, what's my password? Or how can I do this? Not the simple questions. You're getting those complex questions, but how do you handle that with empathy is extremely important for the balance work that's coming to contact centers or BPOs.
What excites you most about the future?
So I can be like 5x productive than what I was 5 years back with everything available at my disposal. Not just 5x productive. You soon going to see like, 1%, 2% $1 billion organization.
What should the smartest emerging leaders do today to thrive?
Not enough to just learn AI, try using them and ensure like, you have real-time use cases that is trying to create value.
Thank you, John. We'll get into the next segment. This is a very dear segment to me because this is especially designed for the freshers and the young talent. What are the top three competencies you feel are important for any fresher to build before they get into the corporate?
One, the technologies are no longer in a 5-year cycle. They are a 3-month cycle. Things get changed every 3 months, right? So you need to be learning all the time. You're not finishing your learning after college. You're not entering a place to try apply your skills immediately. You're going to constantly learn and work. Every 3 months, you're probably going to learn something today, 2 years later, it's not going to be useful. So today's world is much more tougher than what it was earlier. We used to have the advantage of learning something, using it as our trade for earlier, like, the whole lifetime. Maybe today, like, at least 3-4 years. That gap is getting reduced. So be always learning to start communicating well. You can learn everything, but if you can't communicate for nuts, then it's not necessarily going to help you. Learn, rehearse, use
What
things.
one habit that freshers must have?
I would say, like, try to bring value to your game wherever you are, right? If you need to be, really in that role, then how are you contributing something more than what somebody else would have done, right? How are you contributing something more than what somebody would have done with normal AI, right? Because everybody has AI today to use. You don't need to even know something. I can just chat GPT or Gemini and give you the answer. But how do I also remain? How can I probably use a workflow? How can I do things? So try to not be happy with what you just need to do in that job. Please ensure you are able to create more value than what you're supposed to do.
So, one last question in this segment for freshers, especially maybe those who are in the college doing engineering or just freshers getting into the organization. Do you have any message for them?
I think 3 things you guys need to do. One, learn whatever domain, from a context of what's happening in the industry, right? You will learn theoretical books and approaches. You probably will do some algorithms, practical work in your college, but be informed of what's happening in the world and try to apply this in that context. To ensure your communication skills are sharpened, right? Join clubs like Toastmaster or join whatever, lowers your skills. So communication is extremely important. 3, do not miss out networking. Ensure you're networking. It's easy to talk to people of your age, especially when you're in college. Learn to talk to people 10 years older to you. Learn to talk to people 20 years older to you, right? And that conversation, and if you're able to hold that conversation, you've done really well with your communication and with your knowledge. But try to network, right? So these 3 things is what I would say, like, a fresher probably needs to keep in mind.
Great. So we move into the final segment that is living the legacy. What do you believe the world needs more from the leaders today?
Kindness, empathy, it's becoming cutthroat. It's is helping everybody, but AI is also making far fewer jobs, a lot of firing. I understand it will be needed in the business world to sustain. Totally believe that. But have some kindness, have transparency in how those decisions are made. You take decisions absolutely in the interest of business, but bring some empathy, kindness in whatever you do.
Yeah, that question always keeps haunting me. AI versus empathy, AI or empathy, AI with empathy.
Yeah.
Any final message?
No, extremely glad to be here. I would be very glad if this helps at least even one person listens to this and they decide to practice on improving their domain knowledge, communication skills, networking, and they are able to do a better job for themselves. I'll be very thankful for what we are doing here. Saraj, thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, John. In fact, in pandemic in 2019, there were a lot of tough times. That's when I started doing podcasting because I thought that was my passion. I needed some place to talk it about. And now suddenly I realized a couple of months back that I have left so many contacts in the organization since 2000, almost 2000, from Lufthansa days to DXC, CSC, Dr. Reddy's, HCL, Sutherland, and many other organizations, plus my own contacts. And it was like all those contacts were like dead. So I thought, what is it that John would think of me if I reach out to him to have a conversation? There are people with 20, 30 years of experience sitting in the middle management or senior management, and their knowledge is with them, and it's a huge gold mine of knowledge. So I thought, should I reach out to them, extract some knowledge, put it onto the digital platform somewhere? It will help someone. That's how I started reaching out to people, and I got a lot of great feedback that, yeah, this is good, we're feeling happy about it. So, and you can refer people for the future talks. Any of your bosses who inspired you, you can tell them, why don't you join Siraj's show? And
Absolutely.
this is the purpose that I have. My purpose of life is unleashing talent, unlocking potential for optimal performance for community, societies, and for corporates. So thank you so much, John, for being on In the Line of Fire with Saraj today. It was a really nice to have you on the show, and thank you for sharing your insights. I'm sure this is going to help the emerging leaders, the young talent, and CEOs and CXOs, especially understanding where the customer experience is heading. And this podcast is all about real leaders, real experience, real talks, and real insights. And we have had quite a few insights. This podcast will be available on YouTube and on Spotify, on Apple, and all the other leading podcast channels, and some short videos will come on the LinkedIn, and probably we will shoot it to the Instagram also. So thank you so much again for being on the show. Truly appreciate. Hope to stay in touch with you, John.
Sure. My pleasure to be here. Thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you so much, John.